Hello, how's it going? My name's Keith. I am your meditation teacher here on this channel, Meditation Breaks. Um, on this channel, we learn how to meditate. And if you haven't been here before, the way that I kind of approach things is I'll introduce meditation like 101. So if you've never meditated before, and you're like, hey, I saw there's like a topic for this video, but I don't know anything about meditation, it's fine. We're going to do that too. And so we'll start with that. We'll talk about what is meditation, why does it work, how does it work, should you dedicate your time to doing this, and then we'll do a little short, very short meditation together. I will lead it, and then we'll go talk about our topic for today, which is a really interesting one, I think. And then we'll close with a meditation on that topic. So it's like we talk, meditate, and then sleep. Hello to everyone. Hey, Lucia. A happy birthday to Rosa. A little belated, but incredible. The world is very lucky to have had 81 years of Rosa. I'll tell you that much. Okay, so if you are new and at any point when we are talking about meditation and whatnot, you're like, oh, I got a question. Or maybe you're like, Keith mumbles. What did you say? You can use the chat feature to get my attention almost immediately. And you don't have to wait for me to be like, oh, does anyone have any questions? You can just ask them, and I will do my best to get to everyone. If you don't like using the chat feature, or maybe you think of something tomorrow morning, you're like, oh, I wish I had thought of that earlier. I will give my email out towards the end of today's session, and you can always email me anything that comes up when you're trying to do meditation stuff on your own. Okay, so we're going to get started, and each week I like to start by posing the most difficult question, and that is, what is meditation? Whether you have been meditating for a long time, this is your first time trying it, you know nothing about it, you accidentally came to this YouTube channel, regardless of your experience level, everyone has what I'll call a kind of generic image of what meditation is. And that generic image is sitting on the floor, cross-legged, with your eyes closed. I often joke that if you Google meditation, just countless images come up. And the other day I was like, yeah, let me actually do that to make sure that's still the case. Yep. It's just pages and pages of people sitting in the exact same seating position. And so we start to associate meditation with this seating position. And in some traditions of meditation, seating position is important, and it does have some benefits. But meditation itself, the practice of meditation, does not require, at least in my opinion, a specific orientation to how you're seated. Right? You can meditate standing up. You can meditate lying down. You can meditate brushing your teeth. You can meditate doing anything. And so one thing that a goal of mine each week when we do these classes is to start to just expand what we might consider to be meditation. Because right now our definition is very narrow, but it actually, the kind of superpower of meditation is that the definition is very wide. So if sitting down with your, cross-legged on the floor with your eyes closed is not the definition of meditation, then what is? So here on this channel, I like to refer to meditation as a technique that you can use to become really familiar with something. Very helpful, I know. It's like super vague. But that is kind of built into this idea of how wide of a net meditation casts in terms of what it can be used for. So, this idea of becoming familiar with something is the essence of meditation. And here, when on this channel, meditation, we're talking about like mental familiarity, but we don't go around saying, I'm familiarizing my mind with how to get to the grocery store. Like, we do that, it's happening, but we don't refer to it that way. And so, thinking about mental familiarity can sometimes be feel like really nebulous, like what is that? But we can look at physical familiarity, which is something we are way more kind of bought into, in terms of what it can do for us, and then take that definition and translate it to mental familiarity, because it's the same. So, something you are extremely physically familiar with, what would that be? What about using a fork or some sort of utensil to pick up food? All right. You're an expert. You can cut with your fork. You don't even need a knife. You just cut with the side of it, right? You could pick anything up. You can even scoop things that aren't extremely liquidy, and you can do all this while having a wonderfully deep conversation with somebody you care about. Right? Washing your hands, amazing, great one, right? Washing your hands, you don't have to think about the steps anymore. You're an expert. You go to the sink, you turn on the water, you do the soap, you rub the soap. Like, it's all happening so effortlessly, because washing your hands, eating with a fork or utensil, this is something that is really familiar to us. And so, as a result, it requires much less concentration, effort, what have you, like second nature almost. Now, if you could time travel back to when you were a little kiddo, you had no idea what washing your hands was, right? Somebody had to tell you that. You're like, what? What does that mean? And then they're like this, and they stick your hands under the water, and then you're like this, and then they're like, you need soap. You're like, what's soap? And then you put it on there, and they make you rub your hands, and you're like, what just happened? Right? We weren't born knowing how to wash our hands. It wasn't something that we were just like amazing at, and like, you're like, I don't know how to. What do I do with the soap? It's dripping off my hands. I'm picturing my nephew. Yeah, the kids are a great example to think of, to remind ourselves what it was like when we were younger. The point is, you as a kid were not familiar with washing your hands, the mechanics of it, the reasons for it, all of that, and so as a result, washing your hands took concentration, it took effort, it took focus. It did not come naturally. Someone had to explain to you, and you had to practice. And the same is true for anything you have learned in your life, literally everything, because you were not born knowing any of these things, right? And the only difference in between you not being able to effectively wash your hands and you being the hand washing expert that you are now, is practice, familiarity, becoming so familiar with the mechanics of it that you no longer need to think about those mechanics when doing it. This is huge. And it's something that we are experts at. We are experts at familiarizing ourselves with things. And that is, in my opinion, it's like our human superpower. We can become so familiar with a new language that we can speak it like it's the first one we learned. Like, that's incredible, right? And all of these things are based in familiarity. And so when we think about this relationship of the more familiar we are with something, the more naturally it comes to us, etc., you can start to see how mental familiarity is also incredibly beneficial for us to think about, practice, etc. Right? So let's take something like being calm. A lot of people get into meditation because they want to be more relaxed, be more calm, call it what you want, less stress. It's, we're all chasing the same thing there, no matter what we're calling it. We can often, if we meditate and maybe we're feeling a little more calm, be like, wow, you know what? Meditation makes me more calm. Meditation equals calmness. But meditation does not. Meditation does not calm you. Meditation is a technique that teaches you to become so familiar with calm you, that version of yourself that is calm, that exists already inside of you, comes out from time to time. You become so familiar with that calm you starts to show up with less effort, with less concentration, with less energy input, right? Like second nature. This is what we are trying to do with meditation. We are trying to take back ownership of our thoughts for the purpose of being able to become familiar with the things that we want to become familiar with, whether that's being more calm or being kinder to yourself or others or anything, any of all those wonderful things. Meditation is a great tool to help you do that, right? Now, our mind and familiarity, this like intimate relationship that they have, doesn't just work for the good stuff, If we think about something like anger, well, that comes pretty easily. Nobody is like, hey, hang on a second. I know I gotta get angry right now, but I just can't. We never say that. We're having a great day, something happens, and we're annoyed, right? But patience, on the other hand, sometimes we do have to pause. We have to create some space. And this isn't because we are inherently angry people or something like that. It's just like our mind has had more practice getting annoyed than being super patient. Your mind does what it's familiar with. And so the cool part of meditation, at least I think, is that you now start to get to choose, where before, without kind of thinking of familiarity in this way, it's just sort of like, well, I don't know, that's what my mind is thinking right now. And so we are trying to take back ownership of that. Cool? Sounds great, I know. But how do we do it? How do we do the thing? So when you start to learn meditation, almost always, including right now, you will learn breathing meditation. Lucia, so meditation helps self-regulate in a way. Yeah, exactly. Like sometimes I think of it as like a self-therapy session or something like that, it's a way for you to be like, these are the things that are important to me. I would like them to be kind of my default. I want to default to those things because they're important. Excellent. Thank you. So we are going to do some breathing meditation. And breathing meditation is often used as a starting point for a great many reasons. I think the most important reason is that it is extremely accessible. You are breathing right now, hopefully. If you're not, then you got bigger problems than this. But it's always with you. Your brother's always with you. So if you can start to recognize and use breath as a conduit to start to make some of these really incredible strides towards familiarity that we just talked about, well, not only do you realize you can do it, but you can do it without needing specific external things. We don't need perfect quiet to meditate. It might be nice, but it is not required. You do not need to go to a mountaintop. It might be serene, but it is not required, right? You possess all the things that you need already to meditate. And so breath is a really good starting point to realize that. So breathing meditation is a meditation where the focal point is your breath. All meditation is about single pointed concentration on something, focusing single pointedly on one thing, be that your breath or walking or an idea or situation or concept. Like it can be anything, but we are choosing to focus on this thing single pointedly. Now, in the grand scheme of our life, what do you think we are more familiar with? Focusing on one thing or as many things as possible? Multitasking is the kind of opposite of what we're doing with single pointed concentration. And, you know, all of us are incredible multitaskers because we've had a lot of practice with that, and it's encouraged in our society for productivity and all that, you know, nonsense or whatever. But like, the point is, we're so familiar with that our mind defaults to multitasking. Your mind is juggling things all day long, right? Oh, I'm watching a show. Oh, what about work? Oh, I got an itch. Like, your mind's constantly jumping. And this is great for getting worldly tasks done. Not the best for being super relaxed. And so, what we're going to do here is make a choice to focus on one thing, in this case, our breath. And then, whenever you notice that your mind is starting to drift, starting to pick up the bowling pins to juggle again, we're just going to be like, not right now. That's our little saying here. The other thoughts that are coming in, they're not bad or unwanted or whatever. They're just thoughts, just not now. Right? We'll get to them later. And after we recognize that we have been drifting a bit, we put those thoughts aside temporarily and we bring our attention back to breathing. That's it. Choose to focus single pointedly on your breath. Notice when your attention drifts, bring your attention back. And we do this like a little cycle over and over again. And the goal is not to never get distracted. The goal is to start to become aware as earlier on when you are distracted, right? Because the earlier on you're able to notice, hey, you know what? I made a promise to myself that I was going to focus on my breath, and now I'm thinking about pizza. Right? The earlier we notice that, the easier it is for us to go back to our breath. You know, if we're too far down the pizza thing, we're like, oh, then we get these toppings, and you know, it's harder. Hey, so how you doing? Good to see you, my friend. Okay, so we're gonna do some breathing meditation now, and you may notice I am not sitting on the floor. No way, my back hurts. You can sit wherever you want. I'm in a chair. You can be in a chair. You can sit on the floor if you enjoy doing so. You can lay down. I don't know. Hang upside down. That might be interesting. You can do whatever you want. Just get relatively comfortable. And then you can go ahead and close your eyes. And I'm going to guide us through about a 5 or so minute breathing meditation. Okay. Whenever we start a meditation, it can be helpful to take a moment and just check in. Ask yourself, what's my mind up to right now? What does my mind feel like? Is it busy, calm? Are we tired from a long day or filled with energy? Are we feeling happy or a bit sad? Whatever it is perfect. We are not trying to change anything about what our mind is feeling like in this moment. We are just noticing. Taking an interest in your own thoughts. This is something called mindfulness. Mindfulness is an active awareness of your own thoughts on a moment-to-moment basis for the purpose of being able to respond skillfully to those thoughts. And that starts with checking in. Having done that, you can now make a promise to yourself. We're setting an intention. And that promise, that intention, is for you to focus single pointedly on your own breath to the best of your ability for the next couple of minutes. Let that idea sit in your mind. This is your only task right now. All other things can wait. For the next couple of moments, just you and your breath. And with that promise set, that intention made, you can act on it. Turn your full attention to your own breathing, in and out, gently, naturally. Following each breath. You do not need to change the way you breathe here. No need to take big, deep inhales or forcefully exhale air. However you normally breathe, whatever comes natural, that's what I want you to do. In, out, very gently, very naturally. At some point while you're doing this, often very quickly, you may notice your mind is starting to juggle again. It's starting to think of things other than just your breath. Maybe you're thinking, am I doing this right? Or thinking about something you have to do later after this class ends, something happened earlier or last week. Whenever you notice that your mind has drifted in this way, we can just say, not right now to those thoughts. We'll get to them later. Actually, imagine yourself picking up those thoughts, placing them beside you, where they are waiting patiently. And with those thoughts waiting patiently beside you, you can then turn your full attention back to your own breath, in and out, gently, naturally. Single pointedly focused on each moment of each breath. What is it like to focus on breathing moment to moment? We breathe countless times a day, and of those countless times, very, very rarely, if ever, are we focusing on breathing and breathing alone. What happens if we do? Every time you breathe in, can you watch the air as it's pulled from the atmosphere into your body? Feel your shoulders rise. Feel the air move through you into your lungs, your chest expanding to make room. Can you feel the energy that breathing in gives you? That peak moment right before you exhale. And what about when you breathe outward? Can you feel your chest contract? Your body settle, your shoulders fall. Can you watch as that air moves back through your body and then out, back into the atmosphere where it dissipates amongst all the other pockets of air? All those subtleties, all those wonderfully interesting feeling sensations. It took but a few seconds, if that, to happen. And if we single pointedly focus on something that even takes a mere second, we can start to find some of the beauty behind it, some of the hidden joys, the subtleties. If you can do that with your breath, what other things can you find subtle joys in? Breathing in, breathing out, very gently and very naturally. Keep bringing your attention back to your breath as many times as you need to. This is meditation. You are meditating right now. You are a meditator. You are becoming familiar with your natural, peaceful state. You are teaching your mind to focus on what you want to focus on. And right now, the only thing you want to focus on is breathing in and breathing out gently, naturally. The last few moments here, just take some time, enjoy sitting here with your breath. A little time for you. Okay. When you are ready, you can open your eyes. I feel like this time of year when I start the meditation, it's like light, and then when I open my eyes, now it's like darker. It's a little weird. That's meditation. Guess what? You did it. Um, three, pretty much 3 steps, just like we talked about, right? We're choosing to focus single pointedly on our breath. We're noticing when our attention drifts. We're bringing our attention back. All right. That doesn't mean that is is necessarily the most easy thing, and the reason that it might not be that easy is because why? You're not familiar with it. When do you do this? When's the last time? We're not like encouraged to focus on one thing, really. We're encouraged to focus on a lot of things, and something like our breath, it's just very background to us. And so it's really interesting sometimes when we're like, hey, mind, guess what you're going to be doing? Focusing single pointedly on breathing. Our mind's like, ha, 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 ha. That's hilarious. I will not. Look at all the things I can think about. And so this is a training. It is just like anything else. It is a training. And the more we do it, the more normalized this becomes, the more our mind starts to recognize the benefits of this, settling in easier, etc. Right? So the goal here is not to never get distracted. It's really a really important point. It is to begin to notice when you are. And by doing that, you will get distracted less. It's like a weird kind of symbiotic relationship. I don't know if that's right. Okay, cool. Great. We did breathing meditation. And now it's time to move on to our topic for today. I don't have any sound effects. I don't have like a producer, so I had to do it with my mouth. We're going to be talking about attachment. No one likes talking about attachment because it's really difficult to talk about. But it is one of the most important things to start to recognize that your mind engages with. And the reason is twofold. One, and we'll talk about what attachment is, but this concept, attachment, is the underpinning of a lot of other negative mental mind states, anger and whatnot. It is kind of like more of a root of these things. And second, it is really kind of hard to detect. And so once we start to think about attachment, start to learn about it, we'll start to see it in places that maybe before we hadn't really noticed it. And maybe that'll be beneficial. I don't know. So what is attachment? In meditation land, which we are in right now, attachment we'll define as when you believe that you need this object, outcome, situation, feeling, person, whatever, you need this thing to be happy, calm, successful, productive, etc. Right? Sort of like a Mad Libs, right? I need blank in order to be blank. That's attachment. So this manifests in everything. Like it is really interesting once you start to think about attachment, how prevalent it is in our life, right? So needing feeling like you need a person to be happy, right? If we're in a relationship with, someone, like sometimes we can feel like we may not say it, but we maybe feel it, think it, like I don't know how to be happy without them, right? Or if I just get this new job, then I'll be happy. If I just can get this presentation right, I'm going to be successful. I don't know, something like that, right? If I can just focus for 10 minutes, I could be productive. All these things, right? We say them a lot in our day. We think them a lot, right? These are examples of attachment and various levels of severity, but they are all attachment. If I do this, then this happens, right? Lucia, it's a deep-rooted belief that we don't even realize we have. We have been sometimes socialized to believe it. Yes. Totally. Yeah, I like to think a lot about it, like the idea of success, right? Or like when somebody says like, oh, they have a really good job. What does that mean? Good job. In the parlance of our time, it means money. But that isn't necessarily a good job, a job that's doing good, or like there's all of these things that we've been socialized to think are norms. And a beautiful part of meditation is being able to take a step back and think about, well, why is it like that? Does that make sense to me? Right? And attachment is a huge hidden one in here, totally. So, some of the more obvious, I think, examples of attachment and how they affect our lives. Food. I love pizza. Look, I'm just going to say it. I think it's the best food. I'll eat pizza at any time. Hey, Jody, how you doing? Literally, if I woke up and I just woke up and you're like, hey, I got pizza, I'm like, cool, that's awesome. I definitely will eat that. Because I love pizza, right? So much so that, like, if I wasn't able to get pizza, I'd be like, oh man, like, how would I deal with that? Like, I'm attached to pizza, right? I don't need pizza to be happy, to live, to, like, it's not dependent. It's not like the linchpin of my happiness, but it can sometimes feel, oh, if I can just get pizza, then that would be amazing, right? A little more serious, alcohol, right? Or substance use or something like that, right? We can sometimes reach a point where we feel we need this thing in order to be calm, in order to socialize, in order to whatever. And while the kind of like temporary effects of something like that might lead to that, we are in danger of becoming attached to that, starting to associate something like alcohol equals socialization, when really socialization equals socialization. Socialization a word? I don't know. And relationships is another huge one. Be it romantic or family, friends, right? I gotta have. If I don't have my best friend, how would I? Who would I talk to? How would I get by? Right. So these are some of the more obvious ones where attachment starts to play a role. And remember, attachment is I need this thing. I need this thing to be happy, calm, successful, etc. So some of the more subtle ones, this is where it starts to, I think, get a little interesting in terms of like, oh, like I wonder what other subtle things that there's like attachment in. I'm not knocking to-do lists. In fact, I'm jealous of those who keep them because I struggle. But to-do lists are an interesting example of something that can be extremely beneficial, right? I'm planning out my day. That way I don't feel overwhelmed or whatnot, and can very quickly become an attachment, right? So to-do list, let's say we're like, oh, here's what's going to happen today. I'm going to go to work on time, and I'm going to stop for coffee on the way. That's going to be great. I'm writing this down. And then I'm going to work on that project I have until noon. Then I'll take a lunch and like whatever. We have determined how things should go in our day, which is subtle speak for, if my day goes like this, then it will be a good day. It will be productive. I will be pleased. And then what happens? We get the coffee maybe in the morning, but then we hit some traffic. We're a little late to work. Somebody interrupts us with an emergency meeting. We can't work on our thing, and the whole plan falls apart before our eyes, right? And so we start in that moment to get annoyed, right? We're getting frustrated. What are we frustrated about? We're frustrated about this day not going as we had planned it to. I need this day to go like this in order to be whatever, happy, right? We become attached to the outcomes. When really, Many of these things are not in our control. We may hit traffic. It might happen. Somebody might ask us to be in a meeting. Might happen. And so to-do list is like this dichotomy of like extremely helpful organization and planning, but teetering on attachment. Once to-do lists go to should, that's where you can start to see it crop up. Also, weirdly enough, you can be attached to meditation. Right? This is actually something I've experienced, right? When I first started meditating, I've been doing this for, I've probably been teaching for like 12 years now. When I first started, I was like, dude, yes, this is amazing. I love this. And I meditated like crazy, right? And there was a point where I developed tinnitus, which I still have. And tinnitus is a ringing in your ears. If you don't know what that is, it's highly irritating. And it affected how I perceived like the quality of what I perceive my meditations to be from a quality standpoint. I was becoming very focused on this ringing in my ear, and it was distracting me from focusing on my breath or whatever else I was focusing on. And I would like say to myself, if I could just get this ringing done, everything would be fine. I still have tinnitus, but here, I'm meditating still, right? Like it seems like, oh, if I can get rid of this, then I can meditate. But deeper is that I was so attached to having to meditate that any little thing that got in my way was now like demonized, when like, hey, you know what? I have tinnitus. There's some things I can do to help, but it doesn't mean I can't meditate anymore, right? And so it's not this like incredible structural integrity thing that I had made it out to be. Right? This is attachment, right? And it's very challenging to work on attachment because it is very subtle. We don't realize we're attached to something until like it's like gone, or like in my case, like now there's like a ringing in my ear when I'm trying to like think, right? When like an extreme happens, that's when we start to realize how attached we were to something, right? Attachment is also very deceptive, right? Is this attachment or is this love? Is this attachment or is this ambition, right? It is one of the more challenging feelings, mind states, emotions, whatever you want to call it, to detect and analyze and understand. And it's also really personal. I can't tell you if you're attached to something. Only you can determine if you are attached to something, if you are having a negative attachment to something. You are the only person that can tell you that. And that can be scary, right? We may not want to think about these things. It may be overwhelming to think about them. And so all of these reasons kind of fold up into a really challenging topic. And it's like one of the most important topics because of these challenges, right? So why is understanding attachment so important for us? And the title of this video is like like a hidden blocker to our happiness. Why? So attachment is very much like a hidden contributor to pain, right? And we talked about this with the to-do list a little bit, right? We determine how something should go. This is how my day should go. And we become very attached to the idea of it going this way. And we're like, yeah, if the day goes this way, then great day. And then If that doesn't happen, we get frustrated. And so our frustration seems to be coming from the situations of the day, but really our frustration is coming from the fact that we have determined that those things should not happen today. And we kind of just arbitrarily decided that, we know, if we like are really honest with ourselves, that those things might happen. You might hit traffic. You might not, you might misspeak in a presentation. Like, these things might happen. Lucia, no longer a tool, but a crutch. Yes, exactly. The other reason I think this is so important to think about is understanding attachment is a kind of creative way to start to nurture compassion, which is something we talk about a lot here. Compassion, like for others, essentially. And I will give an example of how I think this relates. I will use myself as an example. If you have been coming here a while, you have probably heard me a number of times say that I have like a phobia or like really deep anxiety about itching. Right? Now, I would venture to guess that most of you do not have that as a phobia. You may not particularly like, I can't wait to itch, but it's not like, for me, when it happens, like, oh, when's it going to stop? Like, I don't like the sensation, like that kind of a thing. And I would venture to guess that many of you do not view itching in that way. You may be like, whatever, bye. And so, in a way, I have become attached to not itching. Right? And when I do feel that way, when I do feel like itchy or whatever, if I could just not itch, then I would be calm, essentially. Right? I am attached to not itching, but itching happens. And the compassion angle comes into play because if I think about this is something that I deal with, and other people may not really understand it, but it is really affecting me, and it's an attachment that I have that is like affecting me. Well, then when somebody else maybe talks to you about something that is bothering them, and you're like, I don't know what they're worrying about. It's not a big deal. Right? Attachment solidifies it into being a big deal. And so we can recall our own attachments to then have more empathy, compassion for other people who are dealing with their own stuff. Cool. This topic is a little more like esoteric, I think, than some of the other ones we talked about, because it is a difficult thing to notice. And at this point, I think if you wanted to get an A+ on the attachment quiz, it's just thinking about some things at some point in the day, like, oh, I wonder, like, what are some things that like maybe fall into this category, like trying to recognize how and if attachment is playing a large role in your life. Right? And then I think next week, if it's cool with you, I'm going to kind of continue with this, and we'll start to talk about the thing that we can really like do and focus and meditate on to help with attachment. So let's do another short meditation to close out our evening. And it'll be pretty similar to what we did previously, but I will throw in a little attachment spice. So get comfortable and close your eyes. Just take a moment and check in. What's your mind up to? It's not a comparison to before. Before is done. just now. What's your mind up to? Having checked in, we can once again make a promise to ourselves, a intention. And that intention is to focus single pointedly, exclusively on your own breath to the best of your ability for the next couple of minutes and not judge the quality of your meditation. To just be here, following what I'm saying, no analysis of good, bad, or whatnot. Just breathing. And let's act on that. Turn your full attention to your own breath, breathing in and out gently, naturally. If at some point you notice your mind getting distracted, maybe you hear a sound. Like, what was that? We can often get frustrated. I need quiet. I'm trying to meditate. If I could just have quiet, then I can meditate peacefully. We can very quickly develop attachments to external conditions. But you can meditate with sound. You can meditate while being uncomfortable. You can. It may not be preferred, but you do not need specific external conditions to meditate. Which is a recognition of meditation's ability to bask in not attachment, non-attachment to meditation. Breathing in, breathing out. Gently, naturally. Following each breath. Taking an interest in each moment of breathing. When you do this, sometimes some wonderful subtleties arise. Maybe you're noticing how the air, whenever you breathe in, it feels cool temperature-wise on the tip of your nose. You can feel it. The cool air. How interesting. When you breathe out, that air feels a bit warmer on the tip of your nose, doesn't it? How interesting. How many times in your life have you taken a breath and thought of how the air feels cool on the tip of your nose and then warmer? Probably not often, and yet it happens every time. It is there, waiting to be discovered, enjoyed, if we so choose. Breathing in and out, gently, naturally. For the last few moments, I'd like you to just sit here and breathe and not try to do anything. There's no need to think. There's no need to analyze. There's no need to do anything. Just exist in this moment for a few moments. Okay. And when you are ready, you can open your eyes. Wow, now it's really dark. Every time I do this, it gets dark. That's how time works, Steve. Okay. Great. So similar to what we did before, layered in a little bit of kind of thought prompt on even developing some attachments in the like brief moment we're meditating. Right? You're like, oh, that sounds annoying. If that would just go away, then I definitely could concentrate. Right? It's attachment. Right? So that's it for today. Hopefully you had a great time. I had a great time. So if you did, then that's great. 100% great time rating. Come on back next week. We're going to kind of continue ish what we were talking about here. And if you are like, you know what? I like meditation a lot. And I would like to do some private study on it. I do offer that. It's a great way of focusing on the reasons that you are here right now, wanting to learn meditation. You might be like, you know what? I'm not really here for attachment, right? Lucia, thank you. I agree. I think it is a really cool topic. But if you're like, you know what? I really want to focus my attention on anxiety. Thanks, Dodie. That's a great example of something that we can do specifically in like a one-on-one. So if that's interesting to you, you can just email me and we can find a time that'll work. I do it virtually, so it's pretty laid back. I'm going to give everyone my email now. It is Keith at meditationbreaks.com. Keith at meditationbreaks.com. There you go. That is my email. Feel free to email me if any questions come up. You're like, what did Keith say about attachment? I don't remember, and I don't want to go watch the video. I'm going to email him. Totally fine. If you just want to say hi, you want to set up a one-on-one, you have a question of something that came up while you were meditating on your own, whatever, don't be afraid to reach out. I'm not the most awesome at email. So, I have not forgotten you. It's just sometimes my mind was doing other things that I forget to check my email. But I will always get back to you. And thank you for taking time out of your day to be here. I really do appreciate each and every one of you allowing me to teach. Like, I love doing this, and I couldn't do this without you dedicating time out of your day to be here. So thank you for doing that. And I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next time. I just smacked the microphone into my face to end the session. So there you go.